All right, guys. Hey, I'd like to say good evening to start. And we were supposed to start with 10 guys. At this point, I know we have at least one other going to join us. I believe there's a possible another one. I'm waiting to hear back on Jeff Pike on this conversation. So, conversation tonight, of course, is should crossbows be allowed in the archery season? Joining us tonight is Billy Yee from Horn and Fin Outdoors and Ryan Hoffman from bcinnovated.com. So anyone joining us tonight, again, I'd like to say thank you. And we are going to get started because I believe this conversation is going to take us a while. You should see Chris's pretty face at some point in there. So that is coming. Eric Barnes is having a moment to get on. Chris, he needs a direct link. So give me 1 second. We'll get started. Ron, I'm going to let you open up.
All righty. So my stance on crossbows shouldn't be allowed during the archery season, or at least have their own small section during the archery season. So let it be known, any of my opinions here are based on people who are perfectly capable of compound or traditional hunting. Obviously, that doesn't include elderly, disabled, or kids, the way the laws used to be here in Pennsylvania, which is where I'm from. Long and the short of it, I mean, you hear the argument all the time. In my opinion, you're shooting a short range rifle with a crossbow. All the skills and preparations for what real archery hunting is either really doesn't exist with a crossbow or is usually bypassed by a crossbow hunter. Crossbow hunters, are usually out there because they want to rifle hunt, in my opinion. That's not necessarily all crossbow hunters, but from my experiences and talking with the guys about their stories, meeting guys in the woods, that's the feel I get for it. They're there to rifle hunt. Really, the only reason I think crossbows are even legalized in most states is for money. It's government money, it's state money, it's revenue for them. I mean, let's think about this. Say you meet somebody who's telling a hunting story. Okay, hypothetically, they're talking about their story. They're like, oh, okay, I saw him. I took the butt of the stock up against my shoulder, slowly squeezed the trigger, looking down, my scope, and then harvested that big buck. What does that sound like to you? It's a rifle. You just pulled the trigger on a rifle, essentially. So, I mean, more importantly than anything, to me, it's the skill, stealth, and preparation needed in order to truly bow hunt. It's about the bow hunting experience. I mean, skill-wise, pretty much all true bow hunters sit in a tree stand. More times than not, sitting in a tree stand involves the hunter having to stand up to prepare for the drawback from a compound or a traditional bow, and then the shot. You obviously don't need to worry about that with a crossbow. It's like rifle hunting. You're in the stand, you turn wherever you need to, you pull up, you pull the trigger. Movement is probably the biggest thing. You're talking standing, you're talking the drawback. I mean, you're hoping that deer or whatever you're aiming at doesn't see you at mid-draw. I mean, you think about it, you're drawing back. Well, deer can sense movement easily. You're mid-draw and that deer looks. Well, guess what? I don't know about you guys. I can't hold a compound halfway through mid-draw and hold it there, at least not on my bow. You're either letting that back down or you're committed. You're committed. That bow's got to come all the way back, and at that point, that deer just saw a lot more of your movement. Whether it's going to stay or go, is luck of the draw. Besides that, the sights, compound, literal pins. You're using literal pins for your sights as opposed to a scope. You're judging distance differently with a compound. You don't have the speed you do, so your margin of error with a compound is a lot less. So in my own experiences, I can tell you, like, honest to God, every single crossbow hunter I have encountered in the woods, which probably you wouldn't consider many, I'd say about 10 crossbow hunters I have come across in my path in the woods, has hunted rifle style. And when I say rifle style, I'm saying walking in, sitting down against a tree on the ground and hunting. I mean, I have yet to see a crossbow hunter out of a stand. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying 100% of my experiences with crossbow hunters have been that. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess my biggest gripe, all in all, with crossbows is ruining the true archery experience for other hunters. But also, it's not even the true archery experience in general. The preparation and the hard work and the skill that needs put in to truly bow hunt is 100% needed. Hard work. I mean, you're talking scouting, finding food sources, water sources, travel paths. Do I have open lanes to shoot through? Do I need a food plot over here? Not saying that can't be done with a crossbow, but I'm saying that you can get away with a lot less effort when you got a crossbow in your hands.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, let's turn it over to Grundle here. Chris, let's throw him on the screen. Let's hear what you got to say. Now, I know we originated 3 minutes, but that was with 10 guys supposed to join us. So as I gave Ryan his time, as I gave Ryan his time, you got yours. So let's hear how you feel about the situation.
So Ryan raises some really excellent points, and I don't think anybody's going to argue that hunting with a compound bow is harder or more difficult than hunting with a crossbow. But me personally, I use both. I use a compound bow early in the season when it's warm weather, and when it gets really cold out, I usually switch over to my crossbow. So I kind of hunt both styles, and my main mentality is if it gets you in the woods and it gets you enjoying the outdoors and the sport and it fills your freezer, then I think you should hunt however you want to hunt, whether it be crossbow, compound bow, rifle, shotgun, muzzleloader, handgun, whatever is going to get you in the woods and get you enjoying it. Ryan said 100% of the crossbow hunters he's met hunt off the ground like a rifle hunter. So I just ruined that average for him because I combine both styles. I hunt out of a tree stand almost always. And I hunt even with my crossbow the same way. Crossbows get compared to guns a lot. They get compared to compound bows a lot. But when you break it down, it really is using archery equipment, whether you have to pull a trigger or pull a release. And I know I hear the argument all the time is it's just like shooting a rifle. My crossbow, personally, for me, I shoot a Raven. It shoots 100 yards. I have target shot at 100 yards. But my range with it in the woods, usually here in the Northeast, is about 60 yards. That's about the max shot I'm going to get. I did kill a doe with it at 80 yards out in Indiana, but that was under the absolute perfect conditions. Normally, I wouldn't take a shot that far. So with my compound, I'm good to 35, 40 yards. With my crossbow, I'm good out to 60-ish. Most of the deer I've killed have been about 55 yards, 50 yards or less. So it does extend the range. It does make things slightly easier, and I'm okay with that. And if you like doing it that way, that's great. And if you want to do it archery way, that's great. And if you want to just hunt with a rifle, that's great. And we were talking a little bit before this this whole thing started here right now, and I said I'm going to throw a really crazy thing out there that people aren't going to. It's going to blow your mind. Is I think hunting season should open, and you should hunt with whatever you want to until hunting season closes. You know, Pennsylvania especially, you get one buck tag, and well, now you can get like 4 doe tags, I think. But fill your tags however you want, whenever you want. We can get into all different kinds of side things there, Sunday hunting and longer seasons and whatever. But I think if I go out in the woods and I hunt state property, I hunt crossbow on state property, and the opening day of deer season in Pennsylvania this year, I killed a doe on state land. I have rifle hunters walk by me all the time. I have deer that I let go that someone shoots, or deer that someone shoots and misses and I've shot. So Me personally, do what you want. I think as long as you're enjoying yourself and having fun and doing what's within the law, then go for it.
So I'm going to throw a wrench in both of you. Since nobody else is on yet and they're struggling to get on, I'm going to throw a wrench in both of you right now. So I completely agree with Ryan, and I completely agree with you. So I know it sounds crazy, right? So my thing is this. So I'm going to say that although they do make crossbows that shoot 60 yards, I'm going to say that 60-yard shot to me is what makes the crossbow above the compound bow. Although you can shoot 60 yards with a compound, I've seen guys do it. I just think it happens a lot more often with a crossbow. And I think that if I had one difference between the two that I would tell you is different, I would tell you that would be my argument between the two. I use both. I use a crossbow, hunt from a tree stand. However, there is moments to move on a deer I have sat on the ground. So Ryan is correct. I have. I can also tell you I have sat on the ground with a compound bow in my days. My younger days, I have. So I want to throw that in there. I do not, with a compound or a crossbow, shoot over 30 yards. Because I feel like the moment I shoot over that part, I lose that feeling of that deer getting close and into me. So I feel that it's kind of, I think either one should be fine and legal. I just think somehow there's got to be a line drawn, because I personally know a guy with a Raven who won't shoot a deer unless it's 60 yards. He says they're too close. So, we have some comments coming through. So while we're getting these guys on, let me read. Chris, can you pop on and read these comments out? I took my glasses off.
They are about 6,000 years old. So yeah, Dylan says, needs to be a separate season for able body. I shoot a compound and a recurve. The difference between compound and crossbow is much greater than compound and recurve.
So I totally agree with that. Yep. Anybody, let's in the comments. Anybody disagree with that?
Well, part of what I disagree with that is a lot of people are comparing like the best crossbow with an average compound bow. So there's a lot of people that shoot recurve crossbows or crossbows that shoot a little slower. Now they shoot faster than a compound most of the time, but some of them aren't that much faster than what a modern compound shoots.
Yeah, I think mine was.
I do agree. I do agree with that.
Wild
let's see.
Outdoor Adventures.
Go ahead, Chris, because
says, I feel if you can pull a bow back comfortably, you do so, whether it's compound or traditional. I also feel crossbows are more for people with physical limitations, youth, elders, whatever the case.
Which definitely has been, part of everything I think all of us have heard. Has anybody not heard that?
I've heard it.
Oh, yeah.
I think we've all heard that, right? So I do agree with that. Now, I'm going to ask you guys a question. I'm going to throw this out there, and I'm going to throw it to all of you. You can all answer it. I'm okay with it. We got plenty of time with this amount of people we have. If crossbow hunting is, how do I want to say it? Let's say cheating. I hear the word cheating a lot. Is cheating in the archery season, then is the compound not cheating to the recurve?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll get to all that. So,
first of all, can you guys hear me?
Both make.
Oh, hold on, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris just picked up another comment.
Can you guys hear me?
I was just answering.
Yes.
I can. Yes, we can hear and see you. Yep.
Okay. Sorry. It took me a while to get on.
That's okay. Says, I think they both make good points, but I think it depends on what you want out of the sport and what you make it. I hunt small game with black powder shotguns for extra challenge. If you want extra challenge, pick up a bow rather than a crossbow. Similar gripes could be made from a traditional longbow hunter looking at compound hunters.
So there it is.
Yeah.
Ryan says
that's
he's
why
got
I wanted
an
to bring
answer
that
for
one
I
in
want to hear it.
And Dylan also says this, I can read. It's not a speed issue.
Yeah.
All right, we got another one. Hold on. Go ahead, Chris.
I'd be fine with the rules going back to how the rules were. You have to have a permission permit from the doctor or you're a senior youth hunter.
So I want to comment to that before you guys answer my question. So my comment to that would be, back then, all you had to do was cry to your doctor and they signed a permit.
Exactly.
So I have to say I disagree with that one.
Yeah. Back in the day when they were illegal in Pennsylvania, you could just go to the doctor, and your doctor's probably not a hunter, so they don't know. So they just sign a paper, and you get your permit.
All right, but we still have two that want to.
Now I don't know how it is in
opening.
different states, but that in Pennsylvania, that's the way it was. So many people had permits that shouldn't have had permits, and I used to be very anti-crossbow. Now I use one.
Mhm. All right,
So,
let's
but
give the two that
like
haven't
so many
opened.
people just get them. You know, you could just go to the doctor. My shoulder hurts. Oh well, okay. Can you sign this? The doctor would sign it. He don't care. And then
Yeah, I
the
agree
state, you know,
totally. I agree totally. So, Chris,
So,
did you say
we'll
there's
give-
more comments, Chris, before we keep going? I
Well,
want to make sure we
even
get
before
the
that, so we
comments out. There's a lot
we
of
have-
viewers.
Yes, we have two new people. We want to give them their couple of minutes at the opening, and then we'll go into everything else. Then we'll pick up
Yep,
with
let's
Bob
do that.
Shields.
Hey guys, my name's Eric. I'm from Pennsylvania. As you see, very avid public land hunter. I'm on the neutral side for this. My original exposure to archery hunting was with a crossbow back in 2009, 2010. With a Barnett Quad 400, very obsolete compared to today's crossbows. But the past 12 years, I've been hunting compound, and I have nothing against people who shoot crossbows. My only issue is I believe that there's some people who use crossbows who say that it's not any less of a challenge than a compound, and I disagree with that. And obviously, a compound's not nearly the challenge that a traditional is, but that's my only gripe with them. But I believe I have no issue with them being legal.
Okay. That was a good opening statement. That was sweet to the point, man. I like that. That was good.
well, Eric and I have debated this issue for a while, for numerous, you know, and he's bring up some good points, and I bring up some good points to him. I'm Jeff. I'm from Pennsylvania. Shot a compound for like 30 years. And then I had issues with my eye with a cataract surgery went wrong, so I switched to a crossbow, not being able to see the pins through my peep, and switched to a crossbow. I was very anti crossbow until I started to get to know hunters in Ohio. Being from Pennsylvania, the crossbow is illegal. I never wanted them to be legal in Pennsylvania. I go to Ohio, start get to know a lot of good hunters out there, really, really exceptional hunters, and a lot of them were using crossbows. And I realized that, you know, I was like, oh, I don't want to use a crossbow, blah, blah, blah. And then they were like, it's really not that big of an advantage to a compound, especially modern compounds. And they're like, here, just shoot my crossbow and you tell me. So I shot it, and I'm like, man, at the time I was like, it was like an Excalibur. And I was like, bruh, you're the one that got the disadvantage. You know, I would never give up my compound for a crossbow. You know, this is like 15 years ago, or more. And, you know, I was like, how do you turn in a tree? I just didn't see the advantage to a crossbow. And then I was actually forced to switch. And then actually, Eric, who's on the podcast here, enlightened me that some people use like rest and like shooting sticks and stuff to the crossbow. Then I can see it's an advantage. If you have like some kind of like fancy shooting setup where you all you got to do is swing the arm, like, you know, a camera arm, you know, and you can just shoot. Yeah, I can see that's a big advantage for a crossbow hunter. Me personally, I've only shot. I mean, I've shot over 200 deer with a compound and a crossbow combined. Only one of them is over 35 yards. So I heard you guys talking about long distances. I wouldn't shoot a deer past 35 yards, maybe 37, with either weapon. But that's just me, you know what I mean? But so I can see if these guys are shooting 60, 80 yards with a crossbow, you couldn't do that with the compound and be accurate, I don't think. So that's about, where I stand. I use a crossbow. I don't see much of an advantage to a crossbow if you're not taking long, far shots or using some kind of rest, or one of these $1,000 scopes I see guys using now, the rangefinder. But the guys that should be pissed off are the traditional hunters, because the modern compound has advanced so much over the last 20 years. Archery used to be known as an intimate sport. It was always the word intimate because you had to get in close proximity to the game. And the hardest part about being accurate with a compound or traditional or a crossbow was judging distance. And when the rangefinder came out and the faster compounds, when I started shooting a compound, I was shooting like 180 feet per second. So you really had to really know your distances. And now there's not much difference in speed between a compound and a crossbow. And that's pretty much where I stand.
All right. That's fair.
But anyway.
That's fair. So I'm going to go back to my question, and my question still stands: is if a crossbow is a greater and easier or cheating method than the compound, is the compound not that to a recurve?
It is. I agree. I totally agree with that. The only people, in my opinion, hold on.
I'll talk at once. Let's
okay.
Ryan, I want you to answer that one.
All right.
Since you're the guy sticking up for saying that you're completely against crossbows, let you answer that one.
My answer is it is different, obviously. Not nearly as much of a leap from a compound to a crossbow. And my reasoning is because you still got all the same mechanics and all the movements leading up to the shot. You're still waiting for that right shot. You're waiting for them to get close enough. You still have to draw back on that animal. You got to hope they don't see you during the drawback. Obviously, traditionals, it's usually instinct shooting. Way more badass. Not going to lie about that. There's a lot more skill involved there. But, I mean, when you're talking compound crossbow, what are you doing? You're rifle style hunting. Yeah, you don't have to shoot as far, or you can't shoot as far as a rifle, but you're rifle style hunting. You're putting that stock against your shoulder. You're pulling up. Nothing else involved in movement except squeezing that trigger finger.
So I'm going to ask one of you guys to respond to this, but before I do that, Ryan, I got to ask you. So what if the recurve guy was saying the same thing about you?
He couldn't.
But
What's
he
he
could.
going to say?
Your technology has changed a dramatic amount from recurve to compound. He could say the same thing.
Exactly.
What's he gonna say,
40 pounds at 20 yards. I want you to think about that. You can answer it then. But I want you to think about that. He could say the exact same thing in the same situation. Okay.
And that's where.
What do
that's
you
where
go?
I
Who said?
respond to that.
I apologize. Who said? Who said they would have loved to answer that? That was Grundle.
I would love to answer it too.
Hold on.
So
Grundle.
the comparison there is when you're shooting a recurve or a traditional bow, you're shooting a lot slower velocity. You don't have an 80-85% let off. You're shooting instinctively. You're not shooting adjustable sights or force sights. So it's I think the leap between traditional shooting and a compound is huge, and it's probably just as great as the leap between a compound and a crossbow. You're not going to take your traditional bow and draw and hold and wait for that perfect shot. You can't draw until you get the perfect shot, then draw. My compound, I can draw that compound, and I've got an 80% let off. I can sit there and hold that thing for half a day. And range wise too, you're not shooting 40 yards, maybe 45. I won't shoot that far with my compound. I shoot 40 max, but you're not going to shoot 40, 45, 50 yards with a traditional or a recurve. You've got a lot less range. You've got a lot slower velocity. You have a lot more difficult sighting. You have a lot more difficult to get them in range. You've a lot more difficulties between a traditional bow and a compound than you do with a compound and a crossbow.
I agree. So, Jeff, you wanted to add to that. Go ahead and add to
Yeah,
that, Jeff.
well, the thing is, it's sort of full circle with me. When I was 16, Pennsylvania, we had a lot of bow hunters. We had a lot of bow hunters here in Pennsylvania, probably like 400,000 in the 80s. And when I joined the archery club when I was 16, and I started using I started out with the compound, but most of the members were using traditional tackle, archery tackle. And here's a 16-year-old kid trying to learn how to shoot a bow. And they were making fun of me, calling me a cheater because I was using a bow with training wheels on it. Okay. So, and now you got to remember, my bow shot probably 170 feet per second at this time, and I was shooting fingers. And it was probably 50% let off. It was a bear. So I know how traditional archers feel, because there wasn't much of a difference in the early 80s to a traditional archer to a compound back in the day. Now, by the time because I was shooting all year long, going to 2 3D shoots a weekend in the summer, just to be accurate with when it came time to shoot a deer. Because you had the hardest part between was back then, whether you're a traditional archer or a compound archer, was judging distance. But then the rangefinder came out, and it took the biggest obstacle away, which I didn't get till about 10 years ago. I got a rangefinder, I think. But what I'm trying to say is, out of the 200 deer I've shot with a compound, never once did having to draw in the presence of game affect me, cause me to not get that deer. So, I understand the argument between having to draw and shoulder shoulder like a rifle. I probably shot like 8 deer with a rifle in my entire life. I've been primarily a bow hunter my entire life, and I actually prefer to shoot a compound than a crossbow. I think when you draw back and you aim, you're holding more steady when you're at full draw than you are raising a crossbow up trying to steady it on an animal. And so, like I said, the part about drawing in the presence of game and picking a shot is no different really than a crossbow compared to a compound.
I'd like to give Eric a chance to answer. Eric, do you have anything?
No, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, for me, like I said, my first exposure archery was with the crossbow. And, now I'm shooting modern compounds. I've got roughly every couple of years I'll get a new compound. And for me personally, to be proficient with that compound, I have to shoot 2 to 3 times a week, June, July, until season, and preferably a couple times during season. That being said, even back when I was 14, 15 years old with my dad shooting a really obsolete crossbow, no trigger guard safety, no hand guard, none of that stuff. You pretty much sighted it in and it was ready to hunt. That's my biggest gripe, is just people saying it's no more of a challenge it's just as much of a challenge as a compound bow. The only thing I will say that might have been more challenging with it is if something came in behind you, you had to worry about the limbs hitting the tree because it was a larger size crossbow. But for practice time outside the field, to me, that less modern crossbow still took way less practice time than my modern compounds do now, even though they have less, 80-90% let off and all that.
So I've got a question now for the guys that are against the crossbows. I'm indifferent. I think whatever gets you in the woods is great. Gets you in the woods. I grew up.
I need to stress that you use both, right?
I do.
I need to stress that you use both. So
I started hunting crossbow. So I grew up in Pennsylvania. I started hunting archery when I was a kid, and I live in Connecticut now. And Connecticut started a crossbow season in January only on private property only. That's how they started it. And that's when I bought my first crossbow and started hunting crossbow. And after about 2 years of that, Connecticut switched to you can use it all the time during archery. And then about that same time is when Pennsylvania legalized their crossbows. It was shortly after Connecticut. But the question I ask the people that say that crossbows should not be allowed during archery season is, how does having crossbow hunters in the woods with you during archery season negatively impact you to the point where you don't want them in the woods with you?
It's a good question.
Good question.
Ryan, that's yours, buddy.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that stems back to, I mean, what I initially said in my opening statement or whenever it was. I mean, I told you that 100% of my run-ins with crossbow hunters in the woods. And here's the other thing. I hunt only public land. So I always am, it's not like I have private land where I don't have to worry about crossbow hunters running into me. So 100% of my run-ins have been crossbow hunters walking through the woods and sitting just down from me next to a tree, no more than 50 yards, because they didn't even know I was there. Generally, I mean, I know for a fact all these guys that came in, they didn't scout this area. They didn't come preseason. They didn't put the work in to cut paths. They didn't do any of that because I was there all preseason. I was there looking. I have game cameras up. I put the work in. These guys came in, rifle hunting style, decided to just set up where they thought they knew some deer was and decided to hunt. You generally are not doing that with a compound bow because you can't do it. I mean, it's possible, but it's very highly unlikely you're going to do that with a compound.
So are
So-
they,
Can I respond to
are they
that?
successful and are they being successful hunters, or are they just getting in your way that you don't like about them?
They're getting, in that instance, they're getting in my way that I don't like about it. Yes. Mainly because I put the work in. I put the work in what is needed to truly archery hunt. And these guys came out rifle style hunting, in my opinion, ruining the archery hunting experience.
Can I respond to that?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, so growing up, I worked at a sporting goods store. I worked in the bow department. This local sporting goods store. I worked on bows. The week of the bow season, guys would come in. The same type of guy. I dealt with the same type of guys long before the crossbow was legal or even thought about in Pennsylvania. The same experiences that Ryan had on public land, I had the same experience with compound hunters. The same exact experience. I'd have guys coming in the shop wanting to sell them a bow 3 days before the season started. Okay. And I'm like, well, that's great. Here's a 16, 17-year-old kid saying to an adult, hey, that's great. You're going to be really ready to start hunting next year. And they're like, what do you mean next year? I'm going out Saturday. And I'm like, well, don't you think you should practice, And so we still had those same hunters that Ryan's talking about back in the day. It's just that they were using compounds and their chances of wounding an animal were far greater using a compound. Because back then you really had to practice. Right before I switched to a crossbow, I was pulling my bow out of my case 3 days before the season. And by 2 days before the season, I was as accurate as I was the previous November. But back in the day, without rangefinders, releases, you had 50, 60% let off, and the bows just weren't as smooth or as accurate or forgiving back in the day. Neither were the aluminum arrows or broadheads. So you had these guys going out in the woods, walking. I was sitting in a tree stand. I'd have a guy walking down past me, and he's looking for a deer to shoot, and he would trip and fall over a log, and I'd start laughing my butt off. And he's looking around, not even realize that guys are hunting the tree stands these days. And but today, that's the crossbow hunter walking past me, tripping, falling, and me laughing my butt off. Excuse me, almost said a bad word. So the difference is the same hunters that you're talking about that aren't putting the effort in, Ryan, like you are now using a crossbow, but they would still be hunting. They were still hunting. And like I said, we had 400,000 bow hunters in Pennsylvania in the 80s. That's why Lancaster Archery and Bow Hunters Warehouse, that's why they grew so huge, because we had so many hunters. And they were still going out. It's just that they were probably going to a higher chance of wounding a deer if they got a shot opportunity with a compound, especially back then, than if they were using a crossbow. So I just.
Sorry, Jeff. I'm going to cut you off there. I'm not.
No, that's all right. I'm done.
Not on purpose, but So I guess the question lies here then. Are we actually, Chris, hold on one second. I got to throw this out, then you're up. So, and let me throw it at Ryan. I'll throw it at Ryan just because I know he's fully against. So my question to this whole thing is, are we mad at the compound crossbow for being involved in archery season? Or are we mad at every hunter who thinks he's a hunter and just does dumb crap and walks in the woods not knowing what he is? Because truthfully, as a crossbow hunter, and this is my opinion, you guys can ridicule me when you get your second. My opinion, if you're a hunter, doesn't matter if you're a crossbow hunter, a muzzleloader hunter, a rifle hunter, a bow hunter, if you don't put the work in and you don't know where to set up or how to win moves or how to get there without spooking the deer, you're really not a hunter. So you're just a guy winging it. So I guess, Ryan, my question to you is, are we mad at the crossbow or are we mad at the hunters that are unexperienced and really don't know what they're doing?
It's obviously the hunter, and that's why I usually say the crossbow hunter, not the crossbow. It's absolutely, I mean, obviously it's the hunter. It's the person using it. If they're putting the work in the same as a compound guy would, hell yeah, more power to them. But what I'm saying is, again, through my experiences, and not just in the woods, but just from hearing from guys who hunt with crossbows, it's a much greater increase of guys not hunting, whatever you want to call it, ethically, or truly putting the work in that they should with the crossbow, that the amount of compound guys do. You know why I never see?
So you think because a crossbow's easier? Correct me, but you think because a crossbow's easier, you get a lot more knuckleheads that just pick it up and walk in the woods.
Yes, and that's why I say
is that what I'm understanding?
Hunters. Yeah, and that's why I say you have the rifle hunters come out with the crossbow, because that's what they want. They're looking to come out and kill. They're not looking for the passion that comes with archery hunting. I am an extremely passionate archery hunter, and that's the reason that I hate crossbow hunters so bad. Crossbow hunters who aren't disciplined, I guess. And
that's a good point.
I asked that
there too. Is think about this. All of us seem like we started off as hunters, whether it be archery hunters or rifle hunters or whatever, and then switched to crossbow. I think when they legalized crossbows, it got so many more people involved in archery equipment that they don't have the experience or background to know any better, like Ryan's talking about, because he started off as a bow hunter. So now the good point is that you're getting more people in the woods, you're getting more people into the outdoors, which is what a lot of states are trying to do. But the bad thing is public land is limited, and you have so many people on public land now with crossbows during archery season that it may run into you. But I think a lot of that is, like you were saying, it's an inexperienced hunter rather than a crossbow guy. It's a rifle guy who decides he wants to be able to hunt more and goes out and doesn't have the experience to know his equipment and experience to take more ethical shots and understand the patience it takes to hunt with archery equipment.
But I think we have less bow hunters now than we did years ago, though. Before the crossbow became popular, we have less bow hunters currently, at least in Pennsylvania, Maryland, where I hunt, Ohio. We have less bow hunters now than we did. Now, Ohio is more because they get more non-resident hunters. But we have less bow hunters per square mile than we did back in the 80s and 90s because we have less hunters in general. What's that?
What about total hunters in Pennsylvania?
We have less. We lost over 50% of our hunters since 2001.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania, we had 1.3 million hunters in 2000. We now have 650. Put it this way, we had 1.3 million rifle hunters in Pennsylvania in 2000. We now currently have 650 or 630 rifle deer hunters. Maryland is down to 50,000 deer hunters. So without the crossbow, how many hunters will we have? So my thing was, like I said, I understand what I hunt public land. I think I don't get as mad as Ryan because I always understood that public land is public land. They have just as much right to be there as I do. Even when I was hunting with the compound, it's a compound hunter. So if I saw another hunter interrupted my hunt, my job is to find me another place to scout and find a place that hunting pressure isn't affecting me.
So you're looking for a plan B.
Yeah, I always have. Well, I have plan C. Before the season starts, I got plan A, plan B, plan G, plan Z. Because usually most of my spots are going to be.
Go ahead, Chris. You're waiting. Now you got to chime in here. I seen it.
But I got to say, it's not just the crossbow hunters itself, because I've been in the woods on public where, and I swear to you, I've been surrounded by people close enough where not only do I hear them talking on the phone, but I hear the other end of the conversation, and I say to them, guys, I've been here since 4 a.m. and you know what's going on, and they'll just sit there close, and this is rifle season, this is any season. So I mean, it's the person that lacks the respect, and it's not the weapon involved that does it.
And they've always been that way. Nothing has changed. I think a lot of the younger people will say, "Oh, back in the day, it wasn't like that." People aren't respectful anymore. Hunters aren't respectful. It happened to me when I was 12 years old, 14 years old, 16 years old. It's the same hunters. I had a guy come in and read a news when I was like 16, my first year, the first day of bow season. Guy comes in, sits on the ground 20 yards from me, and starts opening up the morning newspaper and reading it.
Jeff,
the guy was a compound hunter. And to Ryan's point is, I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of hunters that aren't have the same passion as we do, but we got to accept them as hunters because we need as many hunters these days as we can get. There's the weekend warrior, and then there's the passionate hunters. Like I know Eric is, and Ryan, you sound like you're a very passionate bow hunter, very passionate hunter, and and I think we got to try to help these. If you know somebody that's like that, you sort of got to try to help them because, like I said, we're losing hunters.
I got to cut you off. Eric, you're taking it all in, and you're saying nothing. Jump in here. Tell me something. Tell me what you're hearing all this. Where do you stand in this? Tell us where you're at in this whole thing.
Like I said at the beginning, I'm neutral. Not pro, not anti. I have nothing against the people who use them. I have friends who use them.
Now, do you feel like Ryan does? Do you feel the same way Ryan feels? Or do you feel both guys do the same thing?
Say it, Eric.
I'm going to be real.
Say it, Eric. He's going, say it, Eric. Everybody else heard him whisper that. I heard it.
I don't know how deep Ryan gets, but I can honestly say it's very rare that somebody of any weapon during archery season walks in on any of my setups. That I can say for a fact. I with my public land hunting, I try to get half mile to a mile and a half away from the parking lot. I try to get. People are lazy. People don't want to, get very far from the road. Most of the tree stands I find are within 200 yards of the road. I avoid those spots like the plague. So I guess I can't really directly respond to Ryan's claim if it's more crossbow or compound hunters because, quite frankly, I haven't really experienced that. And I'm in Pennsylvania, so we get the pressure. Just a lot of the people just don't go in very far.
Can I ask Ryan a question?
Sure.
Ryan? What type of area are you hunting? You hunting more of a rural area, a suburban area, areas with a lot of public land, or less of public land?
It's more. It's more rural. I mean, these days the Amish are buying up a lot of the land, so it's kind of closing the gap on where you.
Where do you hunt? What area? I don't want to know the address, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I do.
I'll be down there with your crossbow.
What state?
State
I don't need to, trust me.
Oh,
okay, so you're hunting in Lancaster County, Chester County?
No, Dauphin County.
Dauphin County? Well, see, you're hunting in an area that doesn't have I hunt your county. Mm-hmm. You and I are the same as far as we have a lot of people, a lot of our populations are pretty high, right? The hunting's very popular in Dauphin and York. Yeah. There's not as much public land. There's not a lot of square, if you look at, I'm sure you know Pinchot, right? Pinchot State Park?
Yep.
If you're from I grew up hunting Pinchot, okay? There's not a lot of state parks in your county and Dauphin County that, and half of Pinchot Park is a lake. So I had to run in the same type of hunters you have. And I think what it is with our development in York and Lancaster, what you're seeing, it's not just a crossbow hunter. I think what you're seeing is development is crazy over the last 20 years. New landowners, they're not letting people hunt their land anymore like they used to. And part of that's our own fault is not respecting the land or the landowner. So there's a lot more hunters that are hunting public land than what there was 10, 15 years ago because they can't get access to private. So they're all stacking up on public. And I think, yes, the crossbow has gotten very popular and that's who you're seeing, but I think you would still see I think you would still see a lot of hunters carrying the compound. They just couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with the compound. Like you know.
Well,
Chris, you have a question. Go ahead.
yeah. Okay. Let me ask everybody this. Is it any different if somebody walks through, and again, I don't like it when somebody walks through my spot either. Okay. If I've been there for a while and it's annoying. But for me, it's the same as if somebody's putting on a deer drive in rifle season. I was here this whole time. I don't want you walking through here. I don't like the idea of it. But again, it's public.
Yeah, I have to agree, Chris.
We can do.
Well, I have to agree. How does that make a difference between a crossbow or a compound?
But before I head off, the other one was about the Amish bringing. Yes, I've seen mobs of the Amish come up through, and they will shoot every deer, every bear, everything they can see, and just have people walking behind them, dragging it to the freaking road.
And they'll take 80-yard shots of the compound too.
Mm-hmm. So it's not that I don't think it's the weapon. I think it's the hunter involved in it. That's just where I'm going to leave it. And
Yep,
I agree.
So I'd like to ask guys that.
Isn't that what the issue always is? People. I mean, obviously
Yep.
you can't blame.
So, well,
it's like you can't blame the gun when it comes to gun violence. You got to blame the people operating it. That's all
yes.
it comes down to.
So I want to point out something, guys. Chris, put me on the big screen a minute. So I want to point out something a minute. So my whole goal to get everybody together, where it was 10 or 20 or however it be, the goal in this was to show that we're all hunters and we're all part of the same organization. Whether we want to agree to it or disagree with it, we have anti-hunters and hunters. And at the end of the day, if us hunters don't stick together, we really have nothing. So I don't care what you're shooting or what you're using or what you're doing. The point of what I wanted to try to accomplish here tonight was that we need to come together to understand that. Whether we agree or to disagree, again, is okay. And it sounds, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but at the end of the day, it's starting to sound like it's not the crossbow versus the archery season that's an issue. It's sounding that maybe crossbows could have a little bit of their own time, maybe a little bit of their own season. That you guys might feel that way, but it's starting to sound more like it's the ignorance of the people, and that has changed over the years. Am I correct or wrong, Eric? You answer this one.
Oh, I do agree. I mean, there's guys with the compounds that are taking 60, 80-yard shots. There's guys with crossbows taking 100-yard shots. Both in my eyes are very unethical, and there's guys who just shoot at movement. You have hunter accidents every year, unfortunately. And you'd think educated hunters wouldn't do that, but it happens year after year, regardless of the weapon.
I like to dive out of tree stands with an elbow drop like Macho Man. And just,
So Grundle, add to that. Add to what he said. Tell me where you're at in this.
Okay, first of all, my brother wrestled Macho Man, so I'll throw that in there. And we can talk about that another time. But I think that the inexperienced hunter thing really makes a lot of sense, and I'll break it down to you the way when I first noticed it. So I grew up in Pennsylvania. I'm 52 years old now. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I hunted for a few years. Went in the Marine Corps, and I ended up being friends with a guy from South Carolina who I'm friends with to this day. I thought I knew a lot about hunting. They hunt with deer, or they hunt with dogs for deer down there. They bait. I teased them. I said, dude, you guys are just, you're poachers. You're herding deer. I thought I was a good hunter growing up in gun season and hunting archery a couple of years and hunting for maybe, 7 days a year and killing a couple deer. These guys are in the woods every weekend from September to December. And at that time, up until a few years ago, you didn't even have to tag deer. You just shot them. You bought a hunting license. You went out and killed as many deer as you want. Guys are shooting $10 a year. They're shooting 5, 6, 7, 8 does a year. And after going down there and experiencing that, you don't understand how much you don't know until you run into somebody that knows more than you. In Pennsylvania, having a 2-week gun season does not allow people a lot of time to get experience in the woods and have the background to know a lot of stuff about hunting. So if you're a hunter that hunted with a gun for years and you go out it's the first Saturday now, but you go out Monday, Tuesday, then Saturday and Saturday, you're hunting 4 days a year. How many deer are you killing? How much experience do you have where you buy a crossbow now because it will extend your season and you can hunt more? And now you've got inexperienced people coming into the woods with a crossbow and they're disrupting passionate archery hunters.
So I have to, again, I agree with everything you all say, which is funny because we all disagree and feel differently. But I do agree. I don't think any of you are wrong. So I want to, Brandon, I'm sorry, did he spell it wrong or did I? Is it Brandon or Brandon Reamer? Says if the weapon has to be shouldered looking through a scope, it doesn't belong in the first archery season. So let's go with Jeff. Is that, you feel that's true or false?
Well, I feel Brandon should hunt with the crossbow and see. Like I said, I was primarily a bow hunter my entire life, hunting with the bow, a compounding gun season most of the time. I actually feel more comfortable drawing back a compound and aiming at a deer than I do shouldering a crossbow and trying to find it in the scope. And 90%, I have a little note on my crossbow that I got to remember to take the safety off because I'm not used to using a gun. So I much prefer to be a full draw. You hold steadier. When you draw back, there's a wall there, and you're rock solid on your pin is rock. You got a kisser button in. You're looking through the peep. You're rock solid. I think it's different, like you said, but I still feel that it's not much of an advantage, if at any, to whether you're drawing the modern compound with a wrist release, right? Is if you're a traditional hunter, if you're using traditional tackle, I totally agree. It's a huge advantage using a crossbow, but it's also a huge advantage using a modern compound. So if a traditional archer would say, "Hey, we should have our own season. You guys should be allowed in it," I totally agree with that. But with the modern compound, the advancements in the modern compound, I just don't see the advantage.
Well, I'd like to give you guys a chance to answer somebody's comments and questions coming through because I don't know if you guys seen, but there's a crap ton. And I'd like to give you all a chance to jump on here. So, Chris, I'm going to let you pick. Just start putting comments up and we'll pick people who can answer these. Will you please? Our comments and questions have been blowing up. Okay, Bob Chase says, if kids get into hunting means using a crossbow, I'm all for it. I used to be against them, but my son started with a crossbow, and all he wants to use now is his compound. Okay? So, Ryan, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree with that. I mean, really one of the main goals with kids, at least to get them out there, get them in the woods. Obviously, most of them are not going to be able to pull compound back or have the steadiness or the ability to hold that compound for a shot. I agree. It's great for getting kids in the woods. It also, at the same time, scares me because you know how kids are, especially these days. They're getting lazier. They don't want to work for things as much. And, I mean, they think crossbows are cool, you know. It scares me that they start with it, and then they don't ever want to leave it because they can kill something just fine with a crossbow, you know. Why should they move on to something else? Plus, they're cool, you know. I'm not saying all kids are like that. I just feel like kids these days are more likely to stick with that. A lot of that might come with the parenting as well, or whoever is, you know, looking over them as far as getting into the hunting world. But that's my take on it.
Billy, you got anything you want to add?
No, I agree with that, but I think it's funny that Ryan is for kids starting with crossbows when he doesn't want inexperienced people trunching through his area where he hunts, because you're still going to have that with kids hunting with a
It's all
crossbow.
about getting the kids out there, you know.
Hey, I agree.
At that point.
I think it's great that even though he's against them, he's okay to allow a kid to use one to get him involved. So I think he's willing
And
to put
I
his
identify as a
pride
14-year-old then.
You can do that these days, I think.
Eric, you have anything you want to add to that?
Yes. Again, I got started with archery later. Back when I was 12, and you had to be 12 to hunt in Pennsylvania. That was back in 2005, and since then, they're the mentored youth programs and everything. And when I started hunting, my dad hadn't bow hunted in 10 years, so I didn't really, I didn't really have. He didn't really have his gear anymore or anything. So, long story short, he did get a crossbow to try to get back into the archery season, and with his work schedule, he couldn't get out a lot, and just wanted to get me into it. And I'm really glad I did, because I kind of like what Ryan said. I started with the crossbow for 2 years, and then I wanted to challenge myself a little more and got into the compound, and I'm still shooting compound to this day, 12 years later. So I have a son who's about to turn 2. I'm actually probably thinking about getting hit a crossbow this year, probably just to get myself familiar with it for when he's ready to hunt, hopefully in 4 to 5 years. I'll tell you this: I have friends who refuse to let their kids start hunting archery because they hate the crossbow so much. And to me, I just think that's crazy, because you're taking opportunities away from your kids. And a crossbow, in my opinion, is a much easier way to ease your kid into hunting than it is with a firearm that has recoil and loud shot noise.
I agree. I totally agree. Jeff, you have anything you want to add before we move to the next comment?
No, I honestly wish back when I was 12, when I started hunting, I wish I could have used a crossbow. I would have started, but I would have still. I'm pretty sure I'd have graduated to the compound. Like once I was able to shoot one, because I absolutely loved using a compound. But I think it's a great tool to get youngsters involved. And at this point in time, we need to get as many kids involved in the sport as possible, or else we're not going to have a sport. So I think it's a great tool to get people involved.
Chris, let's pull up another comment. I got a lot we can go back and forth with, but I don't want any of our viewers missed out on either. So,
okay,
let's go back to some comments. Okay, we already went through that one. Off the Hook Outdoors says, I desegregated with that. You can scout whenever you want, and you can be in the woods as much as you want. The season starts the day after the last day. So he just commented on Ryan's comment that put in the work, and if you want to be somebody in the archery. So that was just a comment for there. Got to get the kids out, more important. That's the same. I guess muzzleloaders should not have scopes. All right, so somebody go back. There's a comment before that. It's got to be. That looks like an extension comments. Nope, next, Chris. Other way. So there's got to be one before his comment. No, Chris, you're going the wrong way. His comment said there should not.
Right.
So
this one says if the weapon has to be shouldered looking through a scope, it doesn't belong in the first archery season. Then he's saying, guess muzzleloaders should not have scopes.
Oh, okay. I missed it. Thank you, Chris. So yeah, I mean, so then they're saying in the inline season, an inline should not have a scope on, which used to be a rule as well. That could be a whole other argument and topic. That used to be a rule as well, from what I remember.
I'll tell you what I hate to see is the constant breaking down and creating new rules to appease everyone. Okay, so where are we going to stop? Are we going to have a longbow season for 2 weeks, then a recurve season for 2 weeks, then a compound season for 2 weeks, then a crossbow season for 2 weeks? then an inline muzzleloader season without a scope for 2 weeks, then an inline muzzleloader with a scope for 2 weeks, then a flintlocks. Oh, sorry, flintlock should be first. Flintlock
I was
season
just
with
going
no
to say,
scope
don't
first.
forget the flintlocks.
Yeah, so where does it stop when we keep breaking ourselves into separate groups rather than becoming one group? I understand archery hunters traditionally have the first crack at the deer, but like I said before, as far as I'm concerned, hunting season opens up on September 15th and goes until January 15th, and hunt with whatever you want to hunt with.
You got to remember, here in PA, I'm pretty sure we have the largest population of hunters per square mile.
We do.
Yep.
And you would completely decimate the deer if that was the case. There's a reason.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll
I would not want 3 months of gun season here.
Yeah.
Well,
Not
you'll
with the
never
same
see.
amount
let me stick up for this.
You'll never see the Game Commission allow rifle hunting prior to the end of the rut
No,
because of that
right.
fact. Because we put too much pressure on the resource. We have way too many hunters to harvest any bucks with the firearm prior to Thanksgiving. With that said, I think flintlock hunters get the shaft where I think they should have just like us bow hunters. I've never hunted with the flintlock, but I just think that flintlock hunters, not with the stone or whatever, not percussion caps or anything, they should be able to hunt just like archery hunters that have some type of season prior to the rut or during the rut. But that's why we will never see it in Pennsylvania, is because it would put firearms, rifle, muzzleloader, and inline would be put too much pressure on our buck population prior to the completion of the rut.
So I got to add that if I could do a playback right now on Grundle's on his thing, if anybody else thought how ridiculous that sounded, I've heard every one of us laugh. How ridiculous it sounded when he said, so we're going to do this for 2 weeks, that for 2 weeks, this for 2 weeks, that for 2 weeks, this for 2 weeks. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Think about what he said. I mean,
the sporting
we all
stores
laughed,
would love
guys.
it.
Every one of us laughed, including Ryan, who's against crossbows.
Yeah.
We all laughed because it sounds absolutely insane. I mean, at the end of the day, I think what's happening, and this is my opinion, is our game commission is trying to find a piece that we can put in a season where everybody gets a little bit of taste of what is out there, right? So what I hate the most about archery is all the stuff that comes in and out during the bow season. Yeah, that part I have to agree. I probably hate that more than any of it. The rabbits, the ringnecks, we lose all that because we spend our time bow hunting. That's a whole nother subject. But yes, I agree, Jason. But I mean, I just feel like, hearing him say that was mind-blowing. At this point, you read all these comments, and it's funny because there's so many. You can tell who the compound hunters are and who aren't. I don't know if you guys are watching the comments, but you can truly tell. And the thing is, at the end of the day, no matter what I keep hearing it comes down to the ignorant hunter. And we're going to run into them. It doesn't matter if we're in gun season, bow season, flintlock season. If you want me to tell you straight, my opinion after this conversation, because I've done all of them, and I use a compound and I use a crossbow. If I think any sport out there is hard, it's flintlock.
I would agree.
I hate them. I'd rather wrap it around a tree. Matter of fact, I bought one brand new, took it out twice, both times misfired. It sits in a box, and I'll sell it. That's how much I hate them. And I don't sell them.
I bought one when I was 16, practiced with it twice, never used it.
So I guess my question to you guys, and you can all answer, please, one at a time. Ryan's already on the big screen. We'll let him start. So my question to this is the animosity and the arguments between compounds and crossbows, is that really worth the conflict and the power that we give the anti-hunters?
My opinion, I don't think it gives ammo to the anti-hunter. I think when a person that's more of not as selective of what they harvest calls a person that's more selective of what they harvest when it comes to bucks a trophy hunter, that gives ammo to the anti-hunter, because trophy hunter was a derogatory term made popular by antis. But as far as us arguing about what weapon, I don't think it gives antis any power or gives them any ammo to use against us. But we do plenty of other. We say
you guys.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Jeff. I thought you were done. Does
No,
any of you
no,
other
I was
guys
just
feel
gonna
differently?
I think
Was
what
that-
gives the anti-hunters the most ammunition is archery equipment in general. I've seen so many pictures of deer walking around with an arrow stuck out of their head or stuck in their hind end, or and it's whether it's with a crossbow or a compound. I see it a lot, and it just automatically people go right to, oh, someone was trying to take a headshot with a crossbow, or someone was, there's so many things that could go wrong that make a bad shot on a deer. I mean, I've done it before. I'm sure everybody else has done it before. But I think archery equipment in general gives a lot of ammunition to anti-hunters.
It is amazing how many
Now,
deer. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I want to throw a comment out there quick. No, it's okay. I want to throw a comment that just came up on the screen. I think these all need to read. So I don't know what you're on. I'm not sure what you're on, if you can read it or not. I know if you're on smaller devices, it's a lot harder. If you view hunting as a competition between hunters, you will always hate the other hunters and their weapons. If you see it as a competition against a deer, you'll welcome other hunters regardless of your weapon. I thought that was a great comment. It was probably the best comment I've seen on that.
Yep,
that's a great comment.
I've got a quick story to go with that. I hunt. I bought some property in New York and I hunted it. And there was a buck I was chasing that I was seeing on my property, and the woman across the street ended up killing a deer, and I was happy for it. I know that they needed the meat. I know they don't get to hunt very much. I know they don't get to shoot deer. So me personally, I've killed quite a few deer in my life, and I've got deer hanging on the wall. I've got antlers on the wall, and I enjoy shooting a deer, but I would much rather see my buddy shoot a deer who's only killed a few deer in his life, or see one of his kids shoot a deer who never shot a deer. And as far as I'm concerned, if I have a buck walk by me and I can't get a shot at it and it walks around the corner and one of you guys shoots it, hey, congratulations, great job, and I'll help you drag it out of the woods. I don't look at it like, oh, that's my deer, you killed my deer, and get mad. I'm happy for you, man. Good job.
Yep. But over the years, you'd be shocked how many times somebody came back to camp. Somebody shot a buck, and somebody else comes back to camp, and they look at the buck, say, "That's my buck. You shot my buck." And I'm like, "Well, I don't think it's your buck. It's going to be on his wall." And there's always that one. If you have 10 hunters, there'll be 2 hunters. No, but seriously, if you have 10 hunters hunting together, there'll be 2 of them. And I don't care what weapon they're using. There'll be 2 of them that aren't happy for that hunter for killing that buck. It actually causes animosity. And I'm probably happier for somebody else killing a deer than I am for myself.
Yeah, I love just anybody getting a deer. I think it's awesome. So Ryan and Eric, back to the anti. Do you feel that our arguments between the compounds and the crossbows, do you feel that gives the anti-hunters any power? I think that the best statement was they both give them power with bad shots and arrows sticking out, but I'd like to hear what you have to say to that.
I definitely think it does. Basically, if you're a staunch, and I'm not saying this is Ryan, I'm saying like even beyond Ryan, like if you're a staunch person who's like, oh, if you're not a crossbow hunter, you're not a hunter. You're basically alienating and putting down a whole section of hunters. Because honestly, most crossbow hunters are not against the compound. They're usually against the compound when they just have to defend when they're being attacked by the compound hunter. But yeah, there's nothing good that comes from it. I mean, I'm primarily a compound hunter, but if you don't want the crossbow, I wish you luck, and I have nothing bad to say about it.
Ryan, what's your thoughts here before we go to another question?
I mean, I don't think it affects it at all. Honestly, I think Grundle and Jeff explained it pretty well. I also don't believe that the anti-hunters will ever actually get anywhere with the hunting world as far as, making hunting illegal in any way whatsoever. It's just, it's a losing battle for them. I think the amount of hunters outweighs the amount of anti-hunters. And maybe, I don't know, maybe you guys have a different opinion on that. Do you guys think anti-hunters outweigh the number of hunters?
Yes. That's the reason we can't get Sunday hunting in Pennsylvania. There's way more non-hunters. There's way more non-hunters. Not if you take away the Farm Bureau, okay? Take away the Farm Bureau out of the equation. There's a lot of non-hunters that don't want us to have Sunday hunting, and most of them don't. Most of them don't. Are against. A lot of them are against hunters.
I think Sunday hunting is common.
It's common, and I think religion has something to do with it as well. I don't think it's just that. I think religion has something to do with it as well in Pennsylvania. Don't forget that a lot of Pennsylvania is being taken over by the Amish, who is not allowed to do anything on a Sunday but go to church. So I think that has a lot of effect. If you look at this polls and everything, the statistics, of course, Jeff, I have to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Who are statistics written by?
Well, when you have a biology degree, right? You use statistics a lot. So I
understand, but what I'm getting at is who are statistics written by? Man, right?
The Pennsylvania Game Commission, the legislature. Right.
So
I've been fighting for Sunday hunting. I've been fighting for Sunday hunting for 30 years.
Oh, I'm all about Sunday hunting, brother.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I think a lot of it comes from
opposition. And I've studied my opposition, and I understand our opposition of why we don't have it. And the biggest obstacle is the Farm Bureau. But the other obstacle is it seems like more and more anti-hunters are purchasing land. And as landowners, they get a say whether we get the Sunday hunt or not. And
I agree.
Back in the day, people didn't care if you hunted their land. Now the landowner, the average landowner has changed over the last 15 years. There's a lot of yuppies. They want the little farmette. They want the 50 acres and pretend to be farm. They commute to Baltimore and Washington and Philly. They're anti-hunters, and for whatever reason, or they don't agree with it. Some of them might not carry the way, but they don't want to worry about hunters on their property on a Sunday. But a big opposition is to Sunday hunting is the actual landowners overwhelmingly don't want us to have it. And that's what I studied Ohio and Maryland, how they got Sunday hunting. And their DNR's biggest obstacle was the landowners I worked for Bruce Smith, a representative of York back in the day, and we had Sunday hunting hearings. And these people would come testify. Well, if I'm not going to let somebody hunt on my land on Sunday, and Bruce Smith, the Representative Smith, would say, do you let them hunt Monday through Saturday? And they're like, well, no, I don't. Well, of course you're not going to let them hunt on Sunday because you don't let them hunt Monday through Saturday anyway. So
Sunday hunting, a lot of they're not going to win. It's coming. Sooner or later, we're getting it.
I don't know. We've been trying to get it for 30, 40 years now.
We got 4 days. We ain't never had none. We've never had none. We have 4 days now.
Part of the season. They're just feeling it out so it doesn't come as a big shock.
That's it. They're just slowly rolling right now.
Yes.
The Game Commission would have to make huge changes for that to happen.
I agree, but it's coming.
The Game Commission won't make the changes. For instance, I bought another property in Maryland, right below, a half mile below the Pennsylvania line. I had trespassers the first day of rifle, which is the same day as PA. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I called the Game Commission, the Maryland's DNR. I had 2 WCOs there within 20 minutes. You call the Pennsylvania Game Commission, they'll come out 3 days later. So landowners in Maryland understand if I call, I have the game warden's cell number. A game warden will not give you his cell number in Pennsylvania. You have to call a dispatcher. So the landowners and that's the concession the game commissions in Maryland and Ohio made, that if you allow Sunday hunting as a landowner, if you support it, we will guarantee you that we will enforce trespassing. If you call us, we will be there. And
so where does that affect crossbows and compounds? Where does that put us in this conversation?
Well, it doesn't. I don't even know how we got on Sunday hunting. but since he did,
I knew that was going to be your answer, Jeff. That's why I threw it there.
yeah, I have no clue. I don't even know how we got to Sunday hunting.
Sorry, I knew that would throw you way off.
Yeah.
So there's somebody just comment. Unfortunately, I'm at work and must bow out. Great debate. You all bring good points to the end of the light. In the end, yes, we must continue this sport. I pray we resolve and find an issue one day. So, Ryan, I'm going to throw you out there again. You're the only guy on here 100% against him. So I'm going to throw out there for you. After talking to these guys, now here, I'm going to point out that Grundle says he kills deer at 60 yards with a crossbow. I say I won't shoot over 30, maybe 35, even with a crossbow. Does any of that change your view towards one way or the other on a crossbow hunter?
You mean as far as supporting them or what?
Yeah. As far as would you feel more towards it's okay?
I mean, if you could guarantee more crossbow hunters are going to be more disciplined, I guess, yes. But at the end of the day, we're humans. And I mean, I don't know if you've watched the news much lately, but the human race is getting worse and worse and not getting any better. So
I do agree.
I truly believe it all comes down to the discipline when it comes to overall hunting, putting in the work for it, making sure you're being ethical about it. 60 yards with a crossbow is probably doable. I mean, most crossbow companies are rating their crossbows out to 100 yards. They put it right on the package,
Yeah, they are.
Sad. It's really sad.
I agree with you.
So I saw there was a comment. It was a while back. Actually,
Dude, they were flying in here, man. We couldn't keep up. They just kept flying.
Yeah. I think his name was Dylan, maybe Motter, from Baker's Archery, right down the road from me. Actually, shout out to Baker's Archery.
I went to college with Dylan.
Bow shop.
I've heard of Baker's.
He actually he mentioned on his comment that the guys that come in to the shop, because Jeff was actually saying that he always saw compound hunters come in the day before, buy compound bows, and unethically getting out and shooting. Well, Dylan mentioned in his comment, there it is. Crossbows
I
are
see
by
it now.
far more the last minute purchase, 2016 to 2024, and I 100% do that.
Oh, and I agree with that.
And ethics,
I agree. Since the crossbow is made legal, the unethical or slob hunter, whatever you want to call them, that would shoot at an animal, a live animal and they're not prepared, or they didn't practice to take a humane shot, the make a quick good kill. I'm sure most of them these days are using crossbows. I have no doubt. But like I said, prior to the crossbow being legal, they were all using compounds.
So I'd like to show you guys a video real quick. I'd like to show you a video that Ryan sent me. I'm sure you guys seen it, but the viewers haven't. Of Ryan's, I'm going to say it's Ryan's theory of what the crossbow is about.
This will be the crossbow's evolution right here.
So this is the new crossbow of evolution. I'd like to throw this in there and share this because I see we're at an hour 20. I'm going to have Chris play this. I'm going to give everybody a their final statements in this after this. So let's roll this video quick, Chris. No, I should have gave Chris a warning. I usually text him. I didn't give him any warning in this. I just kind of.
I was going to say, you're going to have to share it to me again. Because I had it playing in the beginning and then I got rid of it. So you're going to have to share it to me again.
Okay, so give me 1 second. Well, I'll tell you what. You guys give me your closing statements. Ryan, you start with a closing statement, and then I'll have the video up by then.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, for me, it's about the archery experience, true archery hunting experience. This conversation didn't change my outlook. Well, a little bit, I guess. But I still have my passion for true compound archery hunting and still have my passion for my hate for crossbows. So not going to lie there. But you know, I don't truly understand how anybody can categorize a crossbow as an archery weapon. So there's nothing like it's a different feeling. I mean, the compound bow, our traditional bow, which is even more badass, it becomes an extension of you, in my opinion. I mean, you are taking that thing; it is part of you. You are creating the energy in that in real time with the animal in front of you. You pull that thing back. You got that arrow. You've got your weapon right next to your eye, and you release that thing. And it travels from one side of the animal through the vitals to the other. And all that came directly, literally, you know, from your fingertips. And it's just, there's nothing else like it, in my opinion.
Okay. I just sent it to Chris. He said his Facebook ain't working. So, Grundle, give me your closing.
I am a hunter. I don't classify myself as a bow hunter, crossbow hunter, rifle hunter, muzzleloader hunter. I'm a hunter. I'm going to use whatever I want to use, whenever I want to use it, as long as it's legal. Crossbows, yes, there are similarities with a gun. It's got a trigger and it's got a stock. That's pretty much it. It has more similarities with archery equipment. It has, it shoots the same kind of projectile, use the same kind of broadhead. You're using strings, you're using pulleys and cams, you have limbs, you have kinetic energy. So I think that a crossbow has a lot more in common with traditional archery equipment or compound bows than it does with a rifle. You don't have the range a rifle has. You might have a scope on it. Okay, so it's kind of like a hybrid thing. But I feel that whatever gets you out in the woods is what you should be using, whatever you're going to have the most joy with and the best experience. But as we talked about with experience and ethics, I encourage anybody that hunts, no matter what their age is, no matter what their implement of choice is, that you have to be responsible, you have to be mature, you have to understand the equipment that you're using and its limitations, and you also have to understand the ethics of hunting and the responsibility of every hunter to try and put down that animal as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And that's kind of where my head's at with the whole discussion.
Okay, Eric?
I agree a lot with what Grundle just said, and a couple of even Ryan's points too. I would say for myself, I do identify more as a bow hunter. Archery season is my favorite time of the year. I just love that drawn back feeling. But at the same time, you know, again, as the neutral party here with Grundle, I have, if you're legally hunting with the crossbow and you're not, you know, messing with me, you're messing with other hunters, I have no problem with it. You know, hunt your hunt, I'll have my hunt, and if you kill something, I'll congratulate you. But my only thing is, like I said in the beginning, just don't say that it's as challenging as a compound. That's all I ask. And aside from that, you have
it's as challenging as a cross compound.
I knew Jeff was going to go there, but no, I have, like I said, nothing against crossbow hunters. I think it's a great way to get more people in the sport, especially kids. And I don't see any scenario where where crossbows become illegal in the near future to begin with.
Eric, do you hunt a lot of public land or mostly private?
Yeah, I'm about 80 to 90% public.
So, Jeff, you got something you want to add to close?
Yeah, I pretty much identify as a bow hunter. I've been a bow hunter pretty much most of my life, primarily, and I think, and I understand, I get everything Ryan's saying, and I agree with him on a lot of things. There was just a certain point in I was a member of the UBP, Anti-crossbow. I was offended if you asked if I used a crossbow in the past. There was a certain point, even with compounds, where modern technology took over and there was such huge advancements where we got away from what archery was meant to be. And I said that the words, it was meant to be an intimate sport, and both the crossbow and the compound have shot past that. So my thing is if I'm going to use a compound with a release that's strapped to my wrist, a rangefinder, lighted pins, a bow that's 90% let off. Back in the day, big thing for me was shooting Pope and Young bucks. And you had to have a 65% let off bow or less, or else it didn't count. You had to enter it in a rifle category or firearms back in the day. Well, so many people want, every compound hunter I know, including Eric, they want the best shooting, the biggest brace height, the easiest, most forgiving compound there is. So even though they're compound hunters, they're going for the biggest advantage of the compound they can get with modern technology. So you might as well just go shoot a crossbow. That's just my whole thing. Is if you're buying a bow because it's more forgiving, has a longer brace height, and it's more accurate than the bow you had 2 years ago, and that's the reason you're buying your new bow, you might as well just buy a crossbow, because you're spending money to make it easier and take the challenge away from what archery hunting should be. Now, if bow hunting was what it was 10, 15 years ago, I agree. Crossbows had a huge advantage. But today, when you compare the modern compound to a crossbow, now I'm not talking about I'm talking like a $300, $400, $500 crossbow that you're shooting 30, 40 yards. I'm not talking these. I also think that there should be, whether it's compounds or crossbows, there needs to be some type of limitations at some point on what is a compound and what is a crossbow and what they can shoot, how, on their speeds, because they're just, to me, they're getting out of hand. And that's a crossbow hunter saying that, I think there has to, at some point, to save what Ryan's talking about with archery hunting, there has to start being some limitations put on the modern technology. Because it's just getting so far away from where it's supposed to be. And that's why I said traditional archers are the ones that should be pissed these days, because they're shooting the same.
I'm going to play this video.
Okay.
Jeff, I'm going to play this video, and then I'd like everybody to just give their little comment on this video
Go
before
ahead.
we close.
Yep. And thanks for having me on.
You're a crossbow hunter. So, no, you're welcome. Hey, you have a crossbow. So Ryan said this was your crossbow. So, are you ready?
Yeah. I seen it. You messaged that the other day.
Minnesota Bow Hunters and Midwest Big Game Hunters. I've been working pretty hard to see the full inclusion of crossbows into the Minnesota archery season expire on June 30th. And I think I'm ready to throw in the towel. This debate about whether or not crossbows should be allowed in the archery season, it's just too hard. And I work a lot. I got little kids. And I don't have time to practice shooting my bow. I'm gaining a little bit of weight. I'm getting lazier. So I just got to thinking that if you can't beat them, join them. This is my modern bow. Sure, it's 90-year-old technology, but this is modern archery because it's got a stick, a string, and it's even got arrows. And what's neat about these arrows, other than that they're arrows and not bolts, is that they're nice and sharp, which is exactly what you want when you're bow hunting. You want a nice, sharp arrow. If you would in any way disagree with me calling this bow archery, well, that's just hunters fighting against hunters. And we have more important things to worry about. I don't know about you, but I am really looking forward to the 2025 archery season. I'm thinking I'm going to add a bayonet, glue on a suppressor, maybe even tape on a thermal. But let's go kill our one buck.
That's the best part of the video right there.
I love when the
This might be my new favorite bow.
So Ryan, is that my question to you to end this? Is that for you? Is that truly how you see it?
I mean, how can you ask that question? The guy literally pulled a rifle out and started shooting.
I'm asking, is that truly how you see it? Like, I know you sent the video that stirred a shit pot, right? But is that truly how you see it?
I honest to God, I truly see crossbows at a huge advantage over compounds for sure. It's the process. It is the process of taking your harvest, up to the point of releasing your bolt or your arrow, whatever it is. It's all about the process.
Okay, I was just curious. Now, you guys that do use that have you? Well, here, no, wait, Eric, you use a compound. When you look at a crossbow, do you see it resembling anything in that video?
I'm sorry. Say that question again.
When you looked at that video, do you see a guy with a crossbow resembling anything in
I
it?
honestly don't. I think the guys that are taking rifle distance shots with the crossbows are highly unethical. I think if you're shooting within compound range, within 50 yards, like I said, I'm a compound hunter, but if you're doing that with a crossbow ethically, I don't have a problem with it.
Now, you other guys watching that video, knowing that there's guys out there that feel that way, tell me. Oh, hold on. Bob Chase has come. I've seen outlaws cut off a 410 shell above the water, shoot an arrow out of the gun. Well, I'd love to see that. I'm not going to lie. Do you guys?
That's a BSO video.
Does it bother you? I guess is my question. That these guys see it that way, or does it just make you laugh and say these guys are ridiculous? Go ahead, Grundle. Go ahead.
Oh no, it makes me laugh. I'm way too old to give a damn what anybody thinks about what I do. So I think it's funny. I used to joke the same way about crossbows. I joke the same way about gun hunters now. By the way, I don't hunt with a gun anymore, so I only hunt with archery equipment. So I'll say archery equipment because I use crossbows too. But no, I think it's funny. I'm all for a good joke, and I can take some razzing, but I'll give it back to you as well.
Jeff, go ahead. Tell me what you thought of that video.
I thought it was hilarious. You posted that on our group chat or like in the Facebook messages the other night, and I thought it was hilarious. But I will say this: if the Game Commission in Pennsylvania makes it legal, I won't put somebody down for using it, even though I probably wouldn't use it myself. But if they make it legal and you have your say, you get a vote as a hunter. You can say, "Hey, I don't want that as a legal weapon," or "I do want it as a legal weapon," and the majority should. So so I wouldn't put down somebody for using it. It's just like I said. I just want to close with this. I have a friend who's a very successful archery hunter. He uses the traditional archery gear. Eric knows who I'm talking about, and he gets on me for using a crossbow. Earlier. He gets on me for using a crossbow. Very successful hunter. Respect him a lot. He uses a trad bow, but he uses an ozonics with it for a scent. And I'm like, you use the traditional gear for a challenge, but then you hunt mature bucks like I do, but then you use the exotics to eliminate a buck's number one defense against you is his nose. So I think it depends on what people think is a challenge and what hurts their, I think it's the same thing with trail cameras and everything. I think when it comes to some guys using compounds, they don't want to use a crossbow because it's not as much of a challenge. But the guy using the compound will have 30 texting trail cameras out, So I think we all use technology. Some of us just use it in different ways, I guess. And so,
the only camo you ever need.
Yeah.
Hey, my pappy will tell you that. My pappy will tell you that all the time.
One of those in the woods already.
So I don't know if you guys took notice. Chris, can you scroll back like 3 comments?
No, I hate you. Which one?
It was the first one Interlock TV put on. Very first one from Interlock. So I don't know if you guys know who Corey Brosman is. I'm sure if you're a hunter, you heard of Corey Brosman, right?
No clue.
So Interlock Out There TV. Really? Look him up. The guy's awesome. Runs with Interlock Out There TV.
Okay.
This was his comment. So these guys actually run a TV show. I thought it would be really cool to let their comment be the end of this, so you guys can see somebody that does this as a professional level.
Mm-hmm.
Can I respond to
And
that
it
comment?
said,
I want to respond to that too.
"Yep, hold on. I was going to read it out loud. I'd take a 50-yard shot with my compound bow before a crossbow. Less noise, too many variables with a crossbow at long distances." Go ahead. You can comment to that. Absolutely.
So
Yeah, I don't agree.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say I really disagree with that comment. Yeah, a compound's a little quieter, but you're traveling at least 100 feet per second less, probably more. I think a deer has a lot more time to duck with a slower moving projectile than a projectile where when they're here, they're getting hit with it. So I personally disagree with that comment.
Either weapon at 50 yards, they got plenty of time to duck.
So I just want to point out that what I'm reading is he's saying with less noise. So if they don't hear it, they're not ducking it. That's what I'm taking as, okay, by the comment.
Sure, yeah.
So if the compound bow makes a loud sound where your
less noise makes a lot of sense.
Your crossbow makes a louder sound than your compound bow.
Yeah, the less noise makes a lot of sense.
Is that how you are taking it, right? That's
I understand the compound makes less sound, but the crossbow's getting there way quicker. That's what I'm saying.
The crossbow is losing a lot more kinetic energy over the course of that 50 yards, though, with the shorter arrow.
Hey, real quick here, I want to say something to Jeff. Jeff, that individual you were talking about earlier, he just sent me a message and said he hasn't used his Onyx in 3 years. He wanted you to know that.
Yeah, but he used to love them, and he bought the next ones.
Sorry, that's great.
I love him. I mean, I love him to death, and I mean, he's a great hunter. I love to hunt with him. Sometime we never actually hunted together, but it's like
he's coming for you. He just said it.
Well, he hasn't used it in 3 years, but he used it for a number of years prior to that. So just because you stopped using it doesn't mean you didn't take advantage of the technology, and you realize that you're taking the challenge away of hunting mature bucks. That's my whole point. So, like,
Grundle, you want to comment to that statement?
Yeah. So Interlocks Out There TV, I've heard of them before. I think it was about 3 years ago. They did a hunt out in Indiana-Illinois border with Midwest bucks, and that's where I was hunting with Midwest bucks when I shot the doe that I shot at 80 yards with my crossbow. I never would have normally taken a shot that far, other than I had shot my crossbow at 100 yards. I knew it was dead on, and this is the only time I've taken a shot like this, and probably the only time I would. This doe came out in the field. I ranged her out. She was dead nuts on 80 yards. There was no wind, and she had no idea I was there. I have it on video, and I actually thought I missed her because I shot, and then I heard a crack. I thought it was the arrow hitting the ground, but she took off running and ran down the field and nosedived about 80 yards down the field. So I normally would not take a shot that far with my crossbow, but I would definitely take a 50-yard shot with my crossbow before I did it with my compound. I'm much more comfortable with my crossbow and how fast it is than I am with my compound. Even though my compound will make a 50-yard shot, my eyes aren't as good as they used to be.
I'm glad you commented that. So, guys, we are over an hour and a half mark. Chris and I will give our statements and opinions to this next week when we're on Monday's show. And if any of you guys want to jump on, you can gladly jump on. But it won't be next Monday. It'll be the following Monday. We do every 2 weeks, and we will be on a show. So I want to thank you guys for joining. Chris, you got something you want to add?
Well, I just want to say before
I've seen you go like this.
Yeah, they said before everybody goes, feel free to let us know where we can find you and how we can help you guys out, support whatever it is you're doing.
Absolutely. And Grundle, you run a YouTube channel. You ever want to get on and just even talk about your YouTube channel and what you're doing? I think that would be great. So
Thanks,
definitely reach
I
out to us on that.
I didn't have a very good hunting season this year, so my YouTube channel is mostly turned into product reviews and stuff. So I didn't post so many videos, but I am heading to Texas on Thursday to do a knife hunt for hogs and also maybe some spot and stock crossbow hunting. I'm taking it with me. I'm not sure if I'll have the chance to use it, but I just do
No.
it for fun.
Can you send
I
that
make a little
video to
bit of money
Ryan?
off it. Yeah, I'll definitely send it to Ryan. In fact, I might
Make sure
live stream
anything
it
you
to him
shoot
when I'm
with
down there.
a crossbow, you send to Ryan for me. I would appreciate it. That goes for all of you.
Well, I was going to ask
Just
him
send
to
it
send
right
me
to
my-
Ryan's house.
I'll analyze it real well for you and give you.
Check out my channel. There's a couple crossbow hunts on it. I've got more archery hunts than I do crossbow, but
So I do want to say, though, thank you for being respectful. Thank you for, being honest with your opinions and still holding within reason to be courteous to others. So I appreciate that greatly. So
This
thank
was a
you
fun
very
chat.
much. I want to say
Thanks for
thank you to
having
Susquehanna Custom Lures for their sponsorship tonight. I want to make sure I end with that. They're a new sponsor at Big Sexy Outdoors, and I'm super excited to have them. So thank you very much for joining us. God bless every one of you and every viewer that watched tonight. God bless you as well, and thank you very much. Have a great night, guys.
Yeah, good night.
Have a good one.
thanks,
Good night.
guys. Good night.